Okay, now I would like to give to you what I consider to be the ultimate proof for God's existence. All the attributes of God can be derived very quickly from this one proof, which we will complete by the end of this video. Okay? Now, previously we established what I think to be the most convincing argument for God's existence, whereby we showed that he has to be the creator of every living being as such. He has to be the creator of the first living being, which we know there had to have been a first living being, the first animal, and the first human person. Okay, because those are three different kinds of being, at least. And they act for a purpose, and a purpose cannot be, it can't exist except, first of all, as an idea in the mind of a person, and second of all, as something realized by a person. Okay? So if you don't see that to be true, just go back to the previous videos, especially the last one. But now I want to show that that doesn't just apply to living beings as such and to new kinds of being, like an animal as opposed to a plant, or a human person as opposed to an animal. But there has to be a first cause of every kind of being, which is a subject that has attributes. Okay? Now, before we get into this, I just want to go through St. Thomas's argument that there must be a God because there has to be a first cause. But I don't like this argument because it doesn't get you very far into coming to know who God is. It just gets you to the fact that there must be a first cause. And everyone implicitly thinks that there is a first cause. Okay, it's just what was that cause? Materialists think, there was something uncaused, but they think that's whatever it was that was there at the time of the Big Bang, or before the Big Bang, or whatever. But basically just material things, like the fundamental particles. Theists differ from them in that they say, no, God was the first cause. But everyone implicitly believes that there was a first uncaused being that moved in various ways, or was shaped in various ways, and somehow became everything that now is. Okay, so there's no real dispute about that. But let's just talk about, really quickly, the argument for there being a first cause. So think of a train with an engine, a certain number of cars, let's say 100 cars, and a caboose. Okay? Now let's just say the train engine causes itself to move. And of course, we know that's not true. The train engine moves because it has a combustion engine. And there also has to be someone to ignite the fuel, like the train conductor. He turns the key, or he presses a button, or whatever else. And he acts for a purpose. But let's just say, the train engine causes itself to move. So it moves because of what it is. Now here, we're talking about pushing or pulling. It's important to realize that. When Aristotle and St. Thomas talk about this, they're talking about one thing causing the motion of another by, like, right now. So that's true in the case of pushing and pulling. So when the train engine pulls the first car, which, because it is pulled, it stretches a little bit, and eventually it moves as a whole. Because it is pulled, it moves. And because it moves, it pulls the next car. And because the next car is pulled, it also moves. And because it moves, it pulls the next car. Or it could be pushing. The train engine could be, the last one in the series, so to speak, and it pushes all the cars in front of it. But this is true of pushing and pulling in general. Things that are pushed or pulled need something pushing or pulling them right now in order to move, if pushing or pulling is the cause of their motion. Okay, so the train engine, let's say that's the first cause of motion. Let's just think of it that way. And it causes the first car to move, which causes the second car. The train engine is the first cause of motion in this case. It's the first puller, let's say. And all the cars in between the train engine and the caboose are intermediate causes of the motion of the caboose. So it's a very simple proof. If the caboose is moving, it's moved by, first of all, by the car to which it is attached. And that car is moved by the car to which it's attached all the way up to the train engine. Now, if the caboose is being moved by another, it's being locally moved by another because it's being pulled, let's say, there has to be a first cause. There has to be a first cause of its motion. And if it's being pulled, right, or pushed. And if there were no first cause, there would be no intermediate cause, because every intermediate cause it causes motion only because it is being caused to move, right? That's true of every intermediate cause. It doesn't matter whether there's 100 train cars or 1,000,000 train cars or 1,000,000 train cars. It's true of each one of them that they cause motion because they are being caused to move by the train engine. Okay, so there has to be a first cause. If there was not a first cause, there wouldn't be any intermediate cause, and if there were no intermediate cause, the caboose would not move. Okay, very simple. There has to be a first cause. Okay, now that's true when it comes to pushing and pulling. Okay, and all of that happens right now, basically. If something is being caused to move because it's being pushed or pulled, it's being caused to move right now. So that's it's being caused to move right now by another. Okay. Unlike other things, like when a house builder builds a house, he can build a house and walk away, and he can die, and the house still exists as a house, even though the house builder died, right? But here's a particular thing when it comes to pushing and pulling, for example. It only moves insofar as it's right now being caused to move. Okay. So in any case, there has to be a first cause. All right. And if there is a first cause, well, everything that is, absolutely, everything that has being, is either caused to have being by another, like the first living thing, for instance, or it causes itself to have being, or it's uncaused, right? So just, first of all, everything that exists is either caused to be or it's uncaused. And everyone implicitly thinks that one being is uncaused, at least, like either the stuff from which everything is made, like the soup of particles, highly condensed particles that existed at the time of the Big Bang, that was just uncaused. You could think that, or you could think God is uncaused and he caused even the being of those things. Everyone thinks that at least one thing was uncaused, at least implicitly. But the question is, what was the first uncaused being, right? Okay. But everything is caused or uncaused. Now, when it comes to things that are caused, either they're caused to be by another, like basically everything we know, or it causes itself to be, right? It's caused by another or not. That's basically the only two options. And if it's not caused by another, it causes itself. But nothing can cause itself to be. That's very obvious. Nothing can cause itself to be because in order to act as a cause, you first of all have to exist. In order to act in any way, you first of all have to exist. So nothing can cause itself to be because in order to act as a cause, it would first of all have to exist. So it would have to exist before it existed, which is obviously impossible. Okay, so everything that is caused to be is caused to be by another. Okay, so here's the thing that St. Thomas says, which is very simple. But he's actually one of the first ones to really say this. And that is that whatever is a kind of being, or in other words, whatever is a subject that has attributes, has to be caused to be. It can't be uncaused. Because let's just think of different things that are subjects that have attributes, okay? And let's just skip right to the beginning because we're arguing with materialists. So let's talk about electrons, for instance. An electron is a subject that has attributes, okay? Whatever it is, whatever the details are, it has to be a subject that has attributes. So it's not charge, for instance. It has charge. An electron is not charge itself. It's not mass itself. It's not spin itself. But it has charge. It has spin. It has mass. And if you change those attributes, you change what the thing is, or you'd at least change what we call it. So an electron, for instance, has mass of a certain definite amount. It could have had more mass. It could have had less mass. It has mass that is a certain fraction of a kilogram. It could have had more mass. It could have had less mass. It could have had no mass, like a photon. A photon is a kind of being, but it doesn't have mass. Okay. It has charge. It could have had more charge. It could have had less charge. The charge that an electron has is a definite fraction of a coulomb of charge. It could have been more. It could have been less. That's conceivable. But it is exactly what it is. It could have been positive charge. It's negative charge. It has spin. It could have not had spin, like the Higgs boson particle does not have spin. It has half spin. It could have been whole spin. You get the point. Everything that an electron is, everything that is a subject that has attributes, it could have been otherwise than it is. An electron is a non-living thing. It could have been a living being. And when it comes to different kinds of being, like a person, for instance, a person is a being that has a mind and a will. Or a person is a being that is capable, or at least actually knows things. And a person is someone capable of love, of loving what is good and acting accordingly. Okay, and then a person like me, for example, I have brown hair and I have brown eyes. I'm 6 feet 4 inches tall. I could have been otherwise. Now you can change the attributes of something, and if they're not essential to what that thing is, you can change the attributes, but it's still the particular kind of being that it is. But at a certain point, if you change certain attributes, that thing just ceases to be. Okay, so like me, for instance, if you took away my mind and my will, I would cease to be. I would cease to be a person. If you took away my life, my soul might still exist, but you would take away my life as a person, as a human person. Okay? So everything has attributes which are not essential to what it is, or they are essential to what it is. And you can change non-essential attributes and the thing is still what it is. But if you took away certain attributes, it ceases to be what it is. Like when any animal dies, or when any plant dies. Okay, we get the point. Okay, so when you're talking about something that is a subject that has attributes, or in other words, something that is a particular kind of being, it's first of all that which could be. And absolutely speaking, whatever it is, if it's a kind of being, or if it's a subject that has attributes, it could have been otherwise than it is. So it's first of all that which could be, this or that. And absolutely speaking, it's just that which could be, if it's a subject that has any attributes at all. So it is also that which could not be. And in certain respects, it is that which is not. Everything else other than what exactly it is. So like, you just take a human person, for instance. I'm here. I could be any other place than that than that place in which I actually am. I'm tall. I could have been short. I am living. Just absolutely speaking, I could have been non-living. I am one of literally billions of human beings. I am this one. I could have been any other human being. I could have been an animal as opposed to whatever. You get the point, right? So everything that is a kind of being has very, very, very limited existence. Very, very limited, finite existence, which is this but not that. It's first of all that which could be, and it actually is just a tiny amount of being. So it's like the ocean, which is a finite being, but let's just say an infinite ocean, and you have this tiny little thimble that has some water in it from the ocean. That's what kinds of being are like. They're like this tiny, tiny little fraction of what is this giant, giant thing, which is the ocean, right? Except that when it comes to God, God is not a kind of being. He's not a subject that has attributes. He can't be, first of all, that which could be, right? Because if he was, first of all, that which could be, then there would be a real difference between what he is and his very act of being. That's true of every kind of being. Every kind of being is potentially something, potentially realized. And if it actually exists, it's actually realized. So what it is, if it's a kind of being, if it's a subject that has attributes, what it is relates to its very act of being as realized potential. So nothing can be actual and potential in the same respect. So whatever is a kind of being, if it actually is, it has to be given being by another, because it's an instance of realized potential. Okay, so if that's true, and if nothing can cause itself, what is God? God must be his own act of being. He must be the fullness of being, which for a person, we know he's a personal being, because that's, you can't have the fullness of being without being a person. If he's the fullness of life, he's the fullness of truth, he's the fullness of goodness, he's happiness itself, he's goodness itself, life itself. That's who God is. Okay, now what does that mean about me? That means that I, as a person, my being is right now being caused by God. I'm not like a house, I'm not like a lawnmower, I'm not like something that is what it is because it was shaped in a way, shaped in a certain way, and it serves a certain purpose, but really what it's made of already existed. No, God gives me being right now. And this is true of everything that has being. It receives its being from God right now. So God is loving me and you into being right now. He sees you as lovable. The proof of that is you're alive right now. Why does God see you as lovable? And what is the purpose? Why does he love you? And what is the good that God wills for you? That's what we're going to get into next. But this is the refutation of deism, right? Deism is like, God may have been like the watchmaker or the train conductor that set everything in motion, and then he could have died, right? As Nietzsche says, God is dead. That's deism. Even if you're a theist, a lot of people have that in the back of their minds. That's not the way it is. God is loving you into being right now. God is loving you into being right now. Your heart beats, whether you think about it or not, because God is first of all causing that. Your lungs inhale and exhale for a purpose, whether you think about it or not, because God is willing that into being right now. Okay? So that's the ultimate proof for God's existence. I think anyone can understand this. Anyone capable of graduating from high school can understand this. And once you see this, there's no going back. You have to call it to mind again and again. But this is how you stand to your Creator, who's loving you into being right now. Now, what do we draw from this? Well, stay tuned.